Inflation in the U.S. has not stopped. A server in America today legally earns a base wage of $2.13 per hour, the exact same amount fixed by federal law in 1991. Over those 35 years, prices have more than doubled. That $2.13 buys roughly what 90 cents bought back then. The worker's paycheck hasn't moved. The cost of living has. Who pays the difference? And why does the system keep it so quiet? Meet Sarah, 34, a single mother working full-time as a server in a mid-sized city. Her base pay is $2.13 an hour, but with tips, she averages $18 to $22 on good nights. Rent takes $1,400 a month for a modest two-bedroom. Student loans cost her $280 monthly, and healthcare adds another $400, even after employer coverage. She dreams of saving for a small house in 5 years, but after essentials, almost nothing remains. What's holding her back? Wages frozen for decades while costs soar, turning tips into a gamble rather than reliable income. The price is constant stress, longer shifts, skipped checkups. Most people believe hard work builds security over time. Sarah does exactly that. She shows up reliably, gives great service, and works 40-plus hours. Yet her real purchasing power keeps eroding. The old promise, effort equals progress, no longer adds up. This isn't just her story. Millions in service jobs face the same squeeze. Since 1991, the Consumer Price Index has risen approximately 139%, while the federal tipped minimum wage stayed at $2.13. For low-wage families, it means thinner budgets, delayed home ownership, and heavier reliance on credit. Behind this lies a larger mechanism. When the U.S. left the gold standard in 1971, it removed the final hard limit on creating money. Crises then accelerated the process. In 2008, the financial system nearly collapsed under leverage. The Federal Reserve responded with quantitative easing, buying bonds, injecting liquidity. The Fed's balance sheet ballooned from under $1 trillion in 2007 to $4.5 trillion by 2014, then nearly $9 trillion at the 2022 peak. In 2020, pandemic response pushed M2 money supply growth over 25% in a single year, the fastest since World War II. That liquidity stabilized banks and markets, but it flowed first into assets, stocks, real estate, derivatives. S&P 500 market capitalization grew from roughly $3 trillion in the early 1990s to over $50 trillion recently. Median home prices climbed from around $120,000 in 1991 to about $410,000 today, over 240% growth, far outpacing general inflation. Wages did not follow the same path. If this continues unchecked, the next decade looks tougher. Housing costs could keep rising faster than incomes, pushing ownership further out of reach for entire generations. Debt burdens grow heavier as families borrow to bridge gaps, and each new crisis risks another round of liquidity that inflates assets again, while the quiet tax of depreciation hits those least equipped to hedge. Wage earners, fixed-income retirees, anyone without significant investments. The hidden mechanism is this. Inflation acts as a silent adjustment tool for massive debts. U.S. national debt stood at $3.7 trillion in 1991. Today, it exceeds $38 trillion, with debt to GDP around 125%. Moderate inflation quietly reduces the real weight of those trillions. No vote, no explicit tax hike required. Central banks create reserves and buy assets, channeling new money through bond markets and financial institutions first. Large banks and asset holders gain access early. Households wait, if the benefits trickle down at all. Capital concentrates where liquidity enters fastest. Political incentives align with moderate inflation to ease debt burdens. Narratives frame price rises as temporary or supply-driven, rarely connecting them to decades-long monetary expansion. Institutions like the Fed hold unique power to expand balance sheets during shocks, normalizing tools once seen as emergency only. Is this erosion accidental, a side effect of necessary crisis management, or built into the incentives of a credit-based system? Both views hold truth. Liquidity prevents collapse in genuine crises, yet persistent expansion rewards debt growth and shifts costs gradually onto those without leverage. The structure that decides a dollar's value is anchored in central banking and government debt markets. Those who absorb the most damage are wage earners, savers in cash, fixed-income households. Their purchasing power declines steadily. Crisis tools have become standard. Leverage doesn't vanish, it migrates. From private banks to sovereign balance sheets, from mortgages to national obligations. The next imbalance may already be seeded in today's solutions. The history of money teaches one enduring principle. The value of currency is never set solely by markets. It is shaped by the architecture that determines who bears the burden of keeping the system stable. In that quiet distribution of costs lies the deepest truth about power in finance.